Hello and welcome to PT and Nutrition Education's e-learning platform. Today, as you can see, we are continuing with Unit 2 as we move on to the SMART target section of the client interview. Just a word of warning before we start, this SMART target area of the LAP, the Learner Achievement Portfolio, is probably one of the areas where students make the majority of the mistakes where the LAP would need to be given back to them in terms of any formative assessment which takes place with their tutor. So it is important that you do try and follow our advice as much as possible and that you nail the SMART targets so that your client can obviously benefit from better targets and also your learner achievement portfolio is foolproof. Okay, so if we've never heard of SMART targets before, it's important to know that this is an acronym. So we break each letter down and we are going to explain what each one of these letters means and then how we can apply that to a SMART goal for your client. So if we look first of all at the letter S, this means specific. What we need to try to do here is to avoid generic statements such as to get fitter, to get a six-pack, something like this. You must state whether it is fat loss, muscle mass increase, aerobic fitness, flexibility, or strength gains that you're looking to achieve through the goal with your client. Okay, now we are going to give much more detailed examples, also incorrect examples, but it's important to know that the goals that you set must be very specific towards a certain goal that your client wants to achieve. The second letter is M, and this stands for measurable. So this means that the goal that we're setting must be objectively measurable as a result. So here we're talking about, for example, a reduction in body fat by 2 kilograms, an increase in squat 1 rep max by 10 kilograms. This is measurable and it's objective in that we can measure a 1 rep max squat objectively through the weight measurement on the bar. Achievable, this means that the goals must be within the realms of possibility. So we can't go saying to increase our 1 rep max squat by 100 kilos within 1 week's time, because of course this is just going to be beyond the realms of possibility and therefore unachievable. Not only is this going to have a negative impact on your client when they're unable to achieve it, but as well there could be potential causes of injury or anything along those lines if we set goals which are going to push your client a little bit too far. Realistic, here we've got to take into account external factors that may affect the success. So as before, we were talking about the client's barriers to participation, things like motivation, time constraints. So of course, the goals that we set need to take those barriers into consideration, especially if it's family commitments or something where they can't be training more than 3 times a week, and therefore the fitness goals that we set must be realistic in order to achieve over a certain time frame. And that leads us nicely into the last one, which is time bound. So here we have to make sure that there is a timescale with start and end dates to accompany the goal so that the client has a definitive deadline. So this is just to make sure that the goal is time constrained and that there is a end target for the client to actually work towards. This can increase motivation, maybe encourage harder work during that particular time frame. If we didn't have an end target and we didn't have an end goal deadline, then of course that might reduce motivation and not actually provide any kind of stimulus for the client to work towards an end goal. So now that we've been through each one of the letters of the acronym and we understand what each one means, we now have to combine all of that knowledge and put that into a SMART target in a sentence format so that your client can follow this and that you can achieve the marks needed in your LAP. So what we're going to do now over the next couple of slides, we're going to provide you with some examples of poor SMART targets and ones which won't meet the grade when it comes to the marks in your LAP. And then of course we're going to give you some positive examples which hopefully might give you some ideas in order to correctly write out your SMART targets for your client and their respective goals. Okay, so in order to pass Unit 2, you have to give your client a range of targets, and it's very, very important that these targets are SMART. So as we've just been through, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed. So Given that this is probably one of the areas of the LAP where students in the past have made the most mistakes and therefore had to make changes to their LAP, we thought it might be a good idea to give you a range of bad examples so that you don't put anything of the same standard in your learner achievement portfolio. So if we just have a look here at some short, medium and long-term goals, examples of which wouldn't make the grade and therefore would need to be reattempted if these were submitted as part of the LAP for Unit 2. If we look at the short goal here, we've got to start eating healthier food. You can see quite clearly there that doesn't specifically say what that actually means. What is healthier food? Again, the general definition of healthy can be interpreted in many different ways. So again, we can't essentially measure whether or not this food is healthy or not. How much food are we going to eat? For how long are we going to do this? Is there an end point? You can see that this target here is quite clearly not SMART. Second one there is to make sure you get a good night's sleep after training. Again, a good night's sleep could be 7 hours, it could be 9 hours, depending on the individual. A good night's sleep, does that mean not waking up? Does that mean sleeping all the way through? Again, a good night's sleep has a interchangeable definition and therefore is not a SMART target. When it comes to the medium goals here, we've got to lose some weight by the end of the training program. Again, some weight is not specific. What mass are we trying to lose? Are we trying to lose fat mass or are we trying to lose muscle mass? Of course, it's probably going to be fat mass, but again, this isn't stated and therefore it isn't specific. The end of the training program, how long is this training program going to last? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 12 weeks? Is it a year? Is it 4 years? And again, we can see here that there is no time bound. We can't say whether or not this is realistic, and we also certainly can't measure some weight. The second one here is to get better at squatting. This is a weakness of the client. Now, of course, squatting, getting better, that might be a viable goal, but again, how are we going to measure whether or not someone has got better at squatting? Yes, their weight on the bar might increase, but does that mean that technique is proficient? Again, there is no specificity with regards to this goal, and it's certainly not something that we can measure objectively, especially when we don't know what we're referring to by getting better at squatting. A long-term goal is to get a six-pack. Again, we can see here that although that might be a goal for many people who start a training program, that's again not a SMART target. Getting a six-pack in terms of how much muscle we build in the rectus abdominis, how much fat we need to lose around the midriff. Again, this is all going to be something that we can be more specific with by losing 2 kilograms of fat, for example, or gaining a kilogram of muscle on the abdominals. Something along those lines makes it a little bit more specific. Long-term goal here is to get stronger at the bench press. By how much do we want to get stronger by? By when? How are we going to achieve that? Again, this particular target is not SMART, and therefore hopefully this has given you some idea as to how we can incorporate SMART targets properly, and therefore what are some of the answers we shouldn't give when we are setting goals for our client. Alright, so let's have a look at some SMART targets which would make the grade because they are taking care of every one of those acronyms of the SMART target, which is to be specific, to be measurable, to be achievable, to be realistic, and to be timed. Now, just to put that into a more easy and translatable way, we can see this as exactly what, by how much, and by when. If we answer those 3 questions for every one of our SMART targets, then you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to make the grade. So what we've done here is provided you with some positive examples and ways in which short, medium and long-term goals can be incorporated into your learner achievement portfolio. Okay, so let's first have a look at the short-term targets. Short-term targets generally, when it comes to the LAP, should be within a 4-week time frame. So any goals that you're going to set for the short-term goal must be within a month period. So if you look at the first one that we've given, it's to reduce fat mass by 1.5 kilogram. So we've said exactly what, which is fat mass, and we've said by how much, which is 1.5 kilos. So we want to lose 1.5 kilos of fat. This person's fat mass, after we've done some body fat testing, this is that we know that it's 60 kilogram, and we want to take it down to 58.5. So already mentioned there, that's the reduction of 1.5 kilos. And then we've said very specifically that from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 1st of the 2nd 2021, so again that's that 4-week time frame, has said exactly by when. So therefore we've met that time frame in terms of making this goal SMART. So we've said exactly what we're going to do, we've said by how much, and therefore it is measurable, it's realistic given the bounds of losing fat safely within that particular time frame, and we've also said when we want to achieve it by. So we've ticked every box when it comes to the SMART target, and therefore you would get the full grade for that. The second one there is to increase bench press 3 rep max, so that's 3 repetitions, as much weight as you can, from 60 kilos to 67.5 kilos. So again, we've been very specific by saying that we want to increase our bench press 3 rep max. Okay, so at the moment that's 60 kilos, but we want to take that up by 7.5 kilos within the course, as you can see here from the time frame, a 4-week training period. So a 4-week training block in order to gain 7.5 kilos is certainly something that is realistic, and of course is timed, given that we've outlined the dates, which is from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 1st of the 2nd 2021. So again, all of those SMART targets have been met when it comes to those first 2 client goals. The second one is the medium-term targets. Now, again, when it comes to your LAP, medium-term targets should be within a 1 to 6 month time frame. So if we look at the example that we've given here, we've said to increase 1 rep max squat from 100 to 120 kilos. So that's a rise in 20 kilos in squat. Now, again, we've been specific because we said that we want to get stronger, specifically lower body strength of the squat. So again, this is measurable. It says exactly what. We've said by how much, because we've said here that 100 kilo, which is the current 1 rep max, up to 120. So 20 kilo rise in the space of, and as you can see here from the time, we've got from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 28th of the 4th 2021. So we've got all in all there 4 months, 16 weeks in order to achieve that 20 kilo rise in our 1 rep max squat. So again, I think this is realistic. So once again, all of the SMART target acronyms have been met, and again we've met that medium term goal with the time frame being correct between that 1 and 6 month period. In this particular case, we're talking about a 4-month period. So the second one here, we've got to reduce 5k running time from 25 minutes to 23 minutes from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 1st of the 4th 2021. So 5k running time at the moment is 25 minutes, and what we want to do is reduce that. So again, we've said exactly what we want to do. We've said by how much, so we want a reduction in running time over that 5k distance by 2 minutes. And then we're going to do this from the 1st of the 1st 2021, and hopefully have achieved it before the start of April. So we've got a 3-month time frame in which to complete that. And finally, the long-term goals for your client. These should be a minimum of 6 months, and of course they can be longer than that if you so wish. And you can see that the long-term goals, again, from the examples that we've given, are matching the 3 questions: exactly what, by how much, and by when. So if we look at the first one here, we've got to reduce body fat mass from 20 kilos to 10 kilos. So that's a loss of 10 kilos of fat mass from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 31st of the 11th 2021. So we've got almost a year there to make a drastic difference to somebody's fat mass and hopefully their body composition over the course of that time. To increase deadlift 1 rep max from 100 kilos to 150 kilos from the 1st of the 1st 2021 to the 1st of the 9th. So again, a much greater rise in terms of the weight that we're trying to achieve, but of course this is still realistic simply because the time frame has increased. Okay, we've said exactly what we want to do, which is to increase the strength of our deadlift 1 rep max, and we've got the right amount of time in which to do that, and therefore all of the SMART target acronyms have been met, and therefore this would achieve full marks in your learner achievement portfolio. So hopefully those examples there have given you some ideas of some of the goals which your client may wish to apply to their program. The criteria in which to gain the full marks is that they need to be in a sentence format. You need to say specifically what goal you're trying to achieve. You need to say by how much, and therefore give a actual unit of measurement by which this will be measured by. And also you need to give specific start dates and end dates. Those are really the three things which we're looking for when it comes to giving you the full marks for this particular section. So once those goals have been set and you've agreed them with your client and you've made sure that they're smart, we then have to review those short, medium and long-term goals respectively. Now it's important that when we're setting any goal that we make sure that we have some kind of tracking in place to ensure that the progression is being achieved so that we don't get a shock towards the end of the program. Of course, it's important to know that the intervention that you've put forward is actually working, and therefore constant review of those goals is vital to the success of your overall training program. Now you'll see that the question is how you will review your client's short, medium and long-term goals. And of course this is going to be dependent on the goals which you've actually set on the previous pages relating to your client's SMART targets. If, for example, the goal in question was to reduce body mass, let's say we're working with a boxer, they currently weigh 67 kilos and you want them to weigh 60 kilos so that they can weigh in successfully and therefore compete in their sport, then of course a weekly review of their weight will ensure that you're on track to meeting that goal. So whether that be a short, medium or long-term goal, depending on the time frame which you set, that is going to be really important that on a weekly basis that person is weighing in to ensure the intervention you put forward is working and therefore you're on target to achieve your SMART goals. Of course, if you don't review your goals on a weekly, monthly or even bi-monthly basis, then how do we know that we're making progress? So this part of the LAP is really important and you have to be specific with the goals that you've set for your client. So whether that's weekly weigh-ins in order to track a weight loss target, if, for example, it was tracking a strength-based goal, so to increase deadlift from 100 kilograms to 150 kilograms over a 9-month period, then it might be that we set reviews every 8 weeks or at the end of a meso cycle to ensure that that linear strength progression is on track and therefore the intervention of your strength training for your client is successful. Hopefully that's clear and you've gained some ideas in which to review your client's short, medium and long-term goals. Depending on the goal which you've set, of course, that will determine the type of review which needs to take place. But of course, once again, make sure that you try to fill out all of the space that the box provides and make sure that you're writing in a sentence format. That brings to a close the end of Unit 2 and the SMART target section. So now we can move on to Unit 3.